thought a lot about it. I feel for them at some level. I was the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, so all the mayors, and understand that I'm in this organization. Most of the mayors are Democrats. I'm what I would consider a unicorn, a Hispanic Republican mayor of a big city, and I just think they're under a lot of pressure. And there's pressure because we know academia, we know the media has an agenda. Mm-hmm. Right. And their agenda, in my opinion, oftentimes is not a pro-America, pro-capitalism agenda. It is a socialist agenda. It's an agenda where they want everybody to be equal, which of course is a laudable goal. But then they want to use government as the instrument to impose that equality. And unfortunately, we've seen throughout the course of history, time and time again, that does not work.
All right. So Miami Mayor Francis Suarez, we've done some version of a sit down many times over the last couple of years, some before I was a Floridian. Now that I am a Floridian, I was thinking, what would be the best way to start an interview with you? And then it made me think, well, if I was sitting down with one of the other major city mayors, New York, LA, San Francisco, Portland, Seattle, we could go down the laundry list of cities. It would be a lot of bad stuff. But there's not a lot of bad stuff happening here. That is not a question. That is just a statement. And I'd like you to take it from there because you have a little something to do with that.
Well, thank you. And you're right. It is a beautiful story. And it's a story of, in my opinion, American success. And it's something that we're not ashamed of. There are cities that it seems like, or states, or sometimes people that live in this country that seem to be afraid or ashamed to talk about what makes this country great and what makes this country successful. We believe in American entrepreneurship. We believe in capitalism. We believe that if you work hard and you play by the rules, you have a good opportunity to be successful. And we built a city on the basis that the most precious asset that people have is their time. And that's what they're investing. And so our ecosystem has been built on having the lowest taxes in history. So I lowered taxes to the lowest level in history. And guess what happened? Unprecedented growth. So we grew 14% last year, 12% the year before that. We have the lowest unemployment in America, 1.4%. We have the highest wage growth in America. We were ranked the happiest city in America. You're now experiencing that. We were
the most fit city in America.
The healthiest city in America, right?
Yeah.
And so it turns out that when people are working, when they're happy, when they're healthy, when they're not getting taxed to death, guess what they're not doing? Committing violent crime.
Yeah.
And so we started recording homicides in 1947. If you go back right now, if you make a public records request, a FOIA request, and you say, hey, City of Miami, what's the first year that you have homicide statistics for? It's 1947. We were a third of the population that we are today. That year, we had 32 homicides. Last year, 2023, with 3 times the population, we had 31. So less than 1947. And if you think, well, maybe it was just always good. I mean, it's Miami. It's a beautiful place. It's sun. It's fun. In 1980, we had 220. So we had two every 3 days, people getting killed in our city. So to go from a city that was arguably the murder capital of America to a city where you have a lower homicide rate per capita than its history and a lower homicide rate than in 1947 when you had a third of the number of people. I think that is one of the strongest cases that we make for the ecosystem that we've created. That, of course, as you know, has attracted you.
Yeah.
And has attracted people like Elon, Jeff Bezos, Tom Brady. Of course, we want to get Elon at some point.
Yeah,
I was projecting.
I was working on that.
I
for
know
you
are,
remember?
and we tweeted on that.
Yeah,
but it has captured the imagination of some of the most incredible people. Leo Messi, who turned down $250 million a year to go to Saudi to come here, and that is because we are trying to create the most precious ecosystem where understanding that for a guy like Jeff Bezos, the marginal dollar means nothing. For him to be worth $200 billion and $1, that's not changing the needle for him. For him, it's where can I get the most value for my most precious asset, which is my time. And so from a culture perspective, from sports, safety, obviously we have amazing weather, which I don't influence.
Yeah.
I talk about it, but I don't influence it. And so we're trying to build this incredible ecosystem. And I think we've done it. And, for people like us, it's something we want to shout from the hilltops.
Yeah.
But for those who don't like what I represent, it is a massive threat. And I've learned that in this time where I thought, if I just work hard, if I just do the right thing, and if we build this incredible ecosystem, everyone's going to see it. And I never really fully appreciated what a threat I would be to those who don't see the world the way that I do.
And we've discussed this before, so we can do this kind of briefly. But a couple of years ago, middle of COVID, all hell's breaking loose across the country. Florida becomes a kind of safe haven of sanity. Miami is a safe haven of sanity. I think it was Keith Raboy, tech guy, tweets out basically thinking of moving to Florida. Your line was, "How can I help?" Right?
Yeah.
It was, "How can I help?"
So it's a little bit different, but very similar. It was actually Delian Asparoff, who works for Keith.
Oh, okay.
At Founders Fund, who wrote, "What if we move Silicon Valley to Miami?"
Yeah.
And I responded, "How can I help?" And then we didn't just do that, right? But that was a huge counter narrative, right? What was happening at the time was New York competes for and wins the Amazon HQ2 prize and then says, "No, thank you," right? We can thank AOC for that.
Yeah.
And then you had
insane.
You had a public official in California, I don't even remember the name of the person, who said, "F Elon Musk," and he replies, "Message received," and leaves to Austin, right? And takes his gigafactory to Austin. That was the context of that statement. I was the only mayor in America saying, "We want you. Please come. We want to create prosperity. We want successful people. We want scale. We understand that the world is changing rapidly from a highly industrial economy to an increasingly digital economy, and we need to position ourselves to capitalize on what I call a tsunami of opportunity, a wave of opportunity." So we didn't just do that, right? Then with the help of others, I don't want to take all the credit myself, we put out a billboard outside of Google in San Francisco that said, was a fictitious tweet that said, "Thinking of moving to Miami, DM me."
Yeah.
So we got into the viral marketing. Then we created something in the city called Venture Miami, which was originally grant funded and from people in our ecosystem who wanted to lend us people on sabbatical. And we help people onboard. We help people, create, where do I move to in my business? Right. We wanted to help them with that process. We wanted to make it seamless for people to move. And we've had over 1,000 companies move since we started. The total assets under management of the companies that have moved to Miami, the Blackstones, the BlackRocks, the Citadels, the Starwoods, is over $10 trillion. And our venture capital pipeline grew by over 500% in the last 3 years. So just a massive, in my opinion, migration and reconfiguration of the way the world works.
Were you shocked at the response to that thing?
Super shocked.
Because now it's 3+ years later and everyone can see the fruits of that with this flourishing city, but still to have it happen. And then it does put extra pressures on the city. Right?
No doubt. I was shocked. It was hyper growth. It wasn't, to be honest, it wasn't meant to do that. Like when I was sitting on my bed tweeting, "How can I help?"
Right.
It wasn't, I wanted to create this viral movement. It wasn't like, I'm going to do this. It was spontaneous. But then where I think it was important was when you realize that there's an opportunity, that's the point at which you have to go all in.
Yeah.
And so I realized that it was a generational opportunity. It's something that I always say, we're a 15-year overnight success story. For 15 years, we're trying to create this ecosystem, but we were doing it bootstrapped. We were taking our gains as a community, reinvesting them. And so it was a very arduous process, and this supercharged it, right? And so we were able to do that, which was exciting for us. And then of course, like you said, it creates growing pains. There's this sort of vacillation, right? Because prices go up. It gets more expensive to live here. And then the people who were born and raised here say, "Hey, what about us? You know what I mean? What about me?" We have a mayor that's going out there trying to recruit people. What about us? And so we focused a lot on Venture Miami. We created 2 scholarship funds that were funded almost exclusively by the private sector. So we have one, if you're first in your family to go to college and you're a Pell Grant recipient, we pick up the tab, you go to school for free. If you want to get a STEM degree, same thing. And you're a Pell Grant recipient, we pick up the tab. So, because we need STEM graduates. And again, that was all private sector funding, very little public sector funding. I think on the STEM one, we had an 11-to-1 private to public ratio. So almost exclusively privately funded. And on the first and family, there was an equally large amount of private to public donation. So we don't believe that government is the arbiter of success. In fact, we believe that government often hinders success. And our job is to deconflict what government's role is and to try, to the extent that we can, be a facilitator or even at some level an ideator, but not the one that makes it happen. We help people make it happen.
So I have just no doubt everyone watching this is like, okay, that all makes sense. Lower taxes, safe streets, make the conditions for business, blah, blah, blah. It all makes sense. When you talk to other mayors in other towns, in other states, why are they not replicating this to the degree that we are?
I thought a lot about it. I feel for them at some level. I was the president of the U.S. Conference of Mayors, so all the mayors, and understand that I'm in this organization. Most of the mayors are Democrats. I'm what I would consider a unicorn, a Hispanic Republican mayor of a big city, and I just think they're under a lot of pressure. And there's pressure because we know academia, we know the media has an agenda. Right. And their agenda, in my opinion, oftentimes is not a pro-America, pro-capitalism agenda. It is a socialist agenda. It's an agenda where they want everybody to be equal, which of course is a laudable goal. But then they want to use government as the instrument to impose that equality. And unfortunately, we've seen throughout the course of history, time and time again, that does not work. My parents, who came to this country at 12 and 7 legally from Cuba, are a testament to that, and I think part of the reason why Miami is succeeding while other cities are failing, right? This sort of question that you just asked is because of our birth narrative, right? Sort of our trauma, right? Our DNA is, and it's not just Cubans, by the way. It's Venezuelans, it's Ecuadorian. I mean, it's Nicaraguans. It's people from a variety. Well, now Ecuador has gone sort of socialist, but and Brazil has issues as well. So it is, and Argentina was coming out of it now with Milei. So it is certainly something that has influenced us, because I've always said socialism is the easiest sell in politics. It's very easy to tell people, if you're not doing well, I have the answer. We'll just take more from these people with government and we'll give it to you. And the problem with that is it's a massive disincentive to produce. It's a massive disincentive for investment, which is what propels growth. And not only that, we've seen that these dictators, because they ultimately become dictatorships, these governments never want to let go of power, right? They never want to let the democratic process bring them back into line.
If you're looking for more honest and thoughtful conversations about politics instead of nonstop screaming, check out our politics playlist. And if you want to watch full interviews on a variety of topics, watch our full episode playlist, all right over here. And to get notified of all future videos, be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell.